just get my notes together, tell you about what we're going to be going over, wait for people to show up, get a little warmed up, talk about the vibes and how this Mercury retrograde is essentially going beyond the traditional just like tech issues, vibe issues, and just general problems that people have with Mercury retrograde. What kind of inspired me to do this was one of my colleagues, where he was talking about how this is a bit more than just the old classic stuff, how it's about more understanding the subconscious mechanisms and technological upgrades that are essentially what's going on with these vibes, right? So it's a lot of spiritual, technical upgrades, talking about different things along the line. What's going on, Beans? Talking about different things along the lines of how people essentially associate with different vibes, different experiences, different emotions regarding your essentially monetary expectations along with different things, right? So this kind of goes along the lines of, you know, ego, identity, self-expression, different rituals, different experiences, and the drama that kind of meets the chaos of Leo and Mercury, right? So we're also kind of dealing with some different transits that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be doing an all signs reading. We're going to be doing different vibes, different experiences, and different things that are associated with the understanding of Mercury retrograde in Leo, right? So when we talk about the traditional understanding of Mercury retrograde, it is around the space of, hey, this is me. Hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Hey, you know, what I'm trying to say isn't getting through. What I'm trying to express isn't getting through. Technology, because the planet that essentially created all of these technologies, minerals, and alignments that we use is spinning backwards. So we're not going to experience it the way that we necessarily should, could, or would, right? So when we talk about that and we experience those vibes, it's an opportunity to open ourselves up to the possibilities. It's our opportunity to understand that Mercury retrograde isn't always as simple as people say or experience or really talk about. And it's not necessarily the vibration of what's going on, right? So, oh, cool, thanks. Yeah, you better have, what's the word? You better have Google Translate pulled up again. That was funny. Those Filipino trolls were wilding last time. But, essentially what's going on with Mercury retrograde is it's not the same way, right? It's not the same experience. It's not the same opportunity that people think it is, of where it's like, you know, well, actually, no, I would say the same opportunity of where it's like, my ex is coming back. Like, that is actually happening due to some other outstanding alignments that we're getting into. But we're talking about Mercury retrograde. And for your future reference, when people are, what's the word? When you wonder what the topic of a live is, there's like three dots usually up here. And essentially, you can check to see what the title as well as the description is. So I wrote that for you on this one. Some people are lazy, some people aren't. But check it out. And you know, we're talking about Mercury retrograde right now. Mercury retrograde in Leo. Let me see what the. Let's not have my phone. My bad. I muted myself by accident. You were right. Thank you for saying something. So let's see the degrees, right? Okay, so Mercury is going retrograde from July 17th all the way through August 11th, so it's pretty quick. Yeah, when I dropped my phone, or almost dropped my phone, I pressed the mute by accident. Essentially, it's like rewriting the script of yourself, but it's more about you understanding, like, it's more of a self-worth thing that's quite correlated to your resources and your vibes of, like, what you're experiencing. So it's along the lines of, like, yeah, like, this is what I want, this is who I am, and how is my experience of self-doubt and self-talk kind of holding me up for my monies, right? So when it comes to spirituality and things of that nature, a lot of people back in the day and like your ancestors and all those things that you were talking about in regards to spirituality is regarding like, you know, people used to accept different things for it. People used to accept different experiences, right? Like before the technology of like commerce, before the technology of abundance, before the technology of, you know, actual like currency, right? Like look here, like I'm Canadian from Canada, you know? So essentially, what's going on in regards to that is people are kind of unwinding the expectations of what they're supposed to receive and what they're supposed to give, and that, like, you know, energy of who is, what am I experiencing, how is this like going on, you know what I'm saying? So it's an opportunity to open people's conceptual like ideas up to what could be in regards to what they should receive for the energy they're putting out, right? Because things are shifting. We're experiencing different things. We're experiencing different understandings. We're experiencing an upshift in technology, and we're kind of facing the precipice of a lot of job loss and a lot of different shakeups due to the, you know, 50-year cycle of like industrial upticks and the industrial revolution in some regard. So when it comes to oh, that's wild. When it comes to Mercury retrograde, it's retrograding between 15 degrees of Leo and all the way to 4 degrees of Leo, right? So when we talk about that, we have to understand that we are dealing with 15 degrees, like the 1 and the 5 together equals 6. Is, you know, your control over your own expression and how you really want to think about and kind of reshape and remanifest the possibility of like what you want to express in life, period, right? And how you want your energy to be seen and how you want to claim authority over it and essentially some level of mastery. And when we get back to 4 degrees of Leo, it's bringing us all the way back of it's bringing us all the way back to the concept of what is it that like what is it that your family did to you and your projection of how you should present yourself to your family unit and more, right? So it kind of comes back to that and understanding like how your family programmed you towards what you deserve and what you want to see. So when it comes to, you know, your self-expression and what you're good at and what you're experiencing, yeah, you know, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. Maybe like they sure as hell, you know, I don't know your life. Like they could have abused you, or at the same time, your mind could be too open to what TikTok is telling you about psychology and whatnot. It could go either way. But you know, there's a high probability of both, and so I don't know. But you know, that's something that bothers me in terms of like the modern mental health movement of where it's like you don't know who experiences real trauma or not. So personally, I just try to avoid it altogether because, you know, it's like it's a whole thing about how like common decency has been diminished. Common knowledge isn't so common anymore. People don't know how to interact with each other. It's annoying regardless. Everybody liked the live too, so that would be much appreciated. But in regards to like this degree shift of Leo, it's essentially like, how do I explain this? Oh man, everybody left when I started talking real. It's fun. Um yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's kind of up to you. So, in regards to whatchamacallit. Oh, thank you. Oh wait, no, I'm just tripping. It was just the live counter. Um I gotta stop paying attention to that so I can say real things. But essentially what it is, it's like all about rewriting your script of self, right? So how do you want your energy to be projected and how do you want it to be interpreted and how do you want it to be appreciated? So look at it this way, right? Commerce is a technology that is not going away, right? It's not something that's, you know, going to be lost. So essentially, how people will want their energy to be reciprocated is through a value or some monetary thing, right? So this is why it's important to look at it as a very like monetary way, in a very industrial way, in a very like you know, give and take type of way, to where it's like Mercury retrograde is reshaping your self-identity and your projection, and it's also reshaping your understanding of money. It's reshaping your ability to reciprocate and, most importantly, accept what people are giving you for what you're putting out, right? So a lot of people need to do a lot of rituals, whatchamacallit, and being in a space of like opening yourself up to receiving, showering yourself in spiritual gold coins, showering yourself in abundance, and opening yourself up to the opportunity of like who you are and what you want and like who you can accept, right? Because like I said, this retrograde is important, and it's an important subconscious metric that people are essentially you know, opening themselves up to, because they are, you know, it's like we're moving into a very creative space where essentially human connection and human creativity is going to be the precipice of value due to you know, technology taking over a bunch of monotonous jobs, right? And then there's going to be, you know, there's going to be negative things along the lines of like, there's too many people on earth, how can we do all this in UBI and blah 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 blah, you know, like all that stuff is going to come out, because, you know, it's like what AI say, CEOs say publicly and privately are two different things. So this is an alignment that is pushing people to, you know, like understand their value and understand how to truly be a creative on the interwebs, right? So with that being said, let's run through the kind of storyline or notes that I have for how this is live is going to go, right? Oh, cool. That's amazing. Shouts out to 222. That number's been chasing me for like 3-4 years now. And I feel like I've been chasing it and doing it right, but we'll see. So what we're going through is talking about Mercury retrograde, Leo. We're going to, thank you. We're going to rituals, chakra healing. We're talking about retrograde drama and all that stuff. You're funny. We're talking about like some supporting elements like the Chiron square and the Venus sextile slash square. We're talking, and then we're going to do the all signs reading and some other stuff that I got going on. So let's get into more Mercury retrograde specifics. So, well, I don't know if you were here for when I was talking about the degrees and the numbers, but yes is the short answer. So yeah, I have a whole school where I teach my different styles of astrology and all that stuff. Your root chakra, which is your crotch as well as your feet. Here, before we get into the Mercury retrograde stuff. So I created this thing to help people understand how different energies are stored in the body. So it's like basically this is an astrological chart spread out through your body, and I sort of see the chakras as your houses and how they apply to the body, right? So the traditional root chakra is like the 7th and 8th house, and the yeah, I mean, you know, Big Forehead Ohio Gary is very popular, so I'm not surprised. Not to say that he's bad or anything, but I think I don't really like his approach on astrology. However, you know, numerology is definitely hitting. But basically, like, I see the root chakra as your feet. So it's important to know the sign you have in your 12th house, and it's important to ground and pay attention to your dreams and all that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how I see the chakras. That is this is also called the solar map. You can get it on my store if you're interested, and I also have a free guide that explains it, giving you a video tutorial as well as a custom guided meditation that comes along with it. It's called the Solar Map playlist on my YouTube channel. But back to Mercury retrograde explained. So yeah, it's literally the guide is my it's the, you know, you'll see it, it's free. But yeah, Mercury retrograde explained is essentially like I said, it's a mental rewind regarding your ego. Some of the basic stuff is like miscommunication loops, but I don't really feel that this is going to be a very traditional Mercury retrograde. It kind of is like a reframe and revisit and reprocess of your ego, However, it's not necessarily the way you think your ego is presented. It's more or less a opportunity for people to kind of recognize, like I said, the connection between how they present themselves, how they open themselves up, how they kind of understand how their family may have programmed them in such a way to how they're supposed to present themselves and their own creative gifts and what they're kind of expected to receive from it, right? So this is where we talk about things like reclaiming your voice. One of the big things is like learning how to perform instead of express. And it's an opportunity to essentially like examine how your ego protects you and sabotages you. And this is where we expand a lot deeper into the concept of that 15-degree to 4-degree shift and the numerologics and the degree theory behind that, which is understanding how to master your self-expression, aka, you know, where to perform versus where to express, and understanding how that performance versus expression is I don't even know who Chloe Cherry is, to be honest with you. Um, and it's really about understanding like how that expression versus how your parents kind of programmed you in your childhood, or how your family programmed you in your childhood to open yourself up to um it's kind of like how you open yourself up to, oh, thanks, I'm glad to make you feel calm. I feel like people live life in a very annoying way, so I try to just be like, hey man, just live your life, go do your thing, like stop for lack of a better term, stop bullshitting. People think too much and don't live. I don't think people really even live these days. um so yeah, so essentially like it's kind of deprogramming your mind from like what your family like told you was acceptable. um yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. um I don't know, I'm very judgy in terms of what other astrologers put out, purely because I don't think a lot of astrologers on the internet like have their own opinion. Like I think they're just regurgitations of the YouTube videos they watched 2 years ago. Obviously, I'll reserve that judgment until I like actually see what she said. But yeah, for the most part, I don't really like them. Um, and also, I don't like looking at it because I feel like it. What's the word? I feel like it um, kind of taints like my own perspective on things if I'm trying to like communicate from spirit and blah 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 blah. But oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll check her out. But yeah, that's pretty much the reasons why I normally don't. But back to the understanding of how your family told you should be like projecting your own creative endeavors or do whatever you got going on, versus like how that kind of affects you now in terms of like ego protections versus self-sabotage. It's gonna be a time to really like review your past versions of self that you outgrew. Once again, that theme that we've been dealing with since the Sagittarius full moon, of where it's like releasing old philosophies, releasing old egos, and releasing the opportunity. Yeah, can't miss the popular old British lady. Um, whatchamacallit? Oh, that's interesting. Um, so yeah, so it's like when it comes to this Mercury retrograde, it's an opportunity to really just like understand what you outgrew. But is there any other Freud? What kind of question is that? Um, so whatchamacallit? It's an opportunity for people to really like break through those creative blocks that people essentially like put themselves through and kind of just accept it, right? And the big thing that comes with that is one of this quote that's kind of been sticking with me for a while, which is, um, it's like people, eventually it's like, you grow up, right? And then growing up is a sign that like is recognizing that you watched your parents grow up right before your eyes too. But the other thing that's really been sticking with me lately due to some of the lessons I've been learning is that like your problems grow up. And yeah, it's like a broad sign of um it's a broad experience of like just anything you pay attention to or give your energy to will grow, and if it doesn't, it dies. But it's like it's a very interesting perspective to understand that like your problems grow up with you too. Like if you keep facing the same lesson, it gets bigger and in a different way, and it adapts and evolves to like what you're experiencing, right? And it's all a, you know, it's all a conscious projection field of like what's going on in your mind and your subconscious. But it's like, I don't know, it's really, it really gives a lot of energy and power to what, like, to like that, just like spiritual like harshness of where it's just like, if you really need to cut something off, you need to cut it right now. I'm in my late 20s or mid 20s, I don't know, whatever. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just think that's interesting in regards to this Mercury and Leo, because it's like a lot of the, um, I guess you could say, like mental battles that people go through, where it's just like you can be at peace with the world or at war, with yourself, or at war with the world and at peace within yourself. I think it's a very interesting thing to understand and really associate with this Mercury retrograde in Leo, because it's like, it's really just adding into this layer of ego development and understanding about how you interact with your creativity and your creative gifts, right? So it's like, what are you holding back and what are you protecting yourself from? And how does that correlate to different perspectives in regards to like just how your family programmed you or gave you the baseline understanding to whatchamacallit, to have ever studied a serious career besides astrology? Maybe. I don't know. Like did I ever go to college to like do something? Not really. Do I do other things in regards to business? Yeah, 1000%. Um, Astronomy and astrology are two very, very different things. So no, this is a, I mean, I'm pretty sure people have certifications in astrology. Like, yeah, not that I would want to do that. I hate the current school system. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I forgot what I was saying in regards to um, I went to college for like one semester and then I got kicked out. Yeah, and I do have my own school. Yeah, but like I was saying, like essentially this Mercury retrograde is all about just, you know, doing things, unwinding your parents' programming in regards to um, whatever. So it's essentially just like your parents' programming of what you like, how you're supposed to interact with your own creative endeavors, your own excitement, your own just like energetic, like you know, like that's kind of the vibe of what it is, right? And you're recognizing how that understanding of what you want to do now versus what you were programmed to do is more or less a guideline or a guide rail to what could be and what kind of is, right? So it's just like my parents told me don't play with my Legos past 2 p.m. because I have to eat my broccoli. And now you're still like, you know, dieting properly and not necessarily working hard on your gifts, right? So it's like a very basic example. Um, and it's a opportunity to essentially like, it's an opportunity to essentially recognize that you're like, hey, I'm going back to this understanding. I'm going back to this ideology. And being like, it's a basic example. Don't poke holes in it just because whatever. Um, and you're kind of recognizing that like you need to still eat at a specific time, but you're an adult now and you have a project that you need to essentially finish, right? So sometimes it's okay to sacrifice like diet and sacrifice those things that your parents told you you had to do for what needs to get done right now, right? Like that's like the most basic example I can think of in regards to that. But yeah, it's just like little things like that, little experiences like that, little things that are holding you back that came from, you know, an upbringing that you just never questioned or decided to dive into. So it's an opportunity for you to just really sift through these basic things that you just feel like you have to do and overlook, and recognize that that correlates to your current creative expression right now, as well as what you want out of life and what you want to make happen. You know, like that's essentially what it is and what's going on. Now, some of the other alignments that are going to be affecting us during this Mercury retrograde, we'll just do an even 25, are two main alignments that I've been focusing on, which is, let me double check. No, I don't live with my parents. Been living alone for like, I don't know how long, like closer to a decade than that, I'll tell you that much. Is this right? Okay, yeah, that is right. That's what I thought. No, I have one. No. Maybe you can accept the fact that I make my own money and I'm successful. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this alignment is right. I'm not tripping. Yeah, so the next alignment is essentially, how did I make what? What, like money? I have a successful business and a couple other side ventures that, no, I mean, like, it's fine. Like, I'm just asking questions, but it's like a little off topic. It's whatever. This is what I do for a living. I'm an astrologer. I have an astrology school. I have other various business endeavors that I do. I'm pretty good at brand building and social media marketing. But yeah, the other, whatchamacallit, the other, what is it? All right, that's it. So the other alignments that are kind of just goofing around with this is, essentially we have, y'all are wildin'. Beans, handle that. So the other alignments that we're dealing with is Chiron squaring the sun. It's it's kind of useful in regards to the Mercury retrograde because I wouldn't necessarily say, like, it is technically a deep healing. It's no, I didn't mod you, but I would like you to, you know, wink wink, increase engagement. So Chiron square, it's like it's a deep healing of identity wounds, but when it comes to that, Chiron is the wounded healer, so it always puts you in a situation to be wounded so that you can heal yourself. I personally don't really like Chiron because I don't think people like, yeah, it's useful. Yeah, there's a high vibrational version of it. And whatchamacallit, like, why, whatever. Y'all need to chill out. So essentially, what's going on, in regards to what's the word? The Chiron aspect of it is like, you're going to be triggered by the spotlight, visibility and emotional exposure where you're kind of unwinding a lot of those like childhood things in regards to the the Mercury retrograde is going to be interesting, and it's really going to highlight like how your ego self-sabotages you, like I mentioned. Whatchamacallit? Oh, dang. There's a private chat? I didn't even know that. Damn. Hey, well, they're comments of random people on the internet. It doesn't, like, actually matter, you know? Yeah, that's what I was wondering. But, in regards to the Chiron, yeah, I don't think there is, but whatever. So in regards to Chiron, the question that's mainly asking you is, like, what wound keeps you from fully shining? That's kind of like a very, like, I instantly come with, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Do you? Like, just, like, you don't have to report people and you can just, like, chill out. Like, I'm answering your questions. It's not that deep. Um, whatchamacallit, I'm not gonna block them. Like, I had trolls like saying worse things to me, and like personally, I don't actually care because it's just people on the internet saying words. Like it's whatever. You know. So essentially, back to the Chiron square. It's asking you what wound is keeping you from fully shining. And essentially, what's going on is that vulnerability that is being deeply triggered within you is something that you need to um, essentially like it's essentially what you need to poke at and what you need to dive into yourself, right? Because remember, Chiron is the wounded healer. It shows you what is wounded, and you go, oh man, I should run most of the time. But no, you shouldn't. You should understand what's going on within you. You should understand what you're dealing with. You should understand what's triggering you and holding you back from the spotlight. Because once you heal that and you like remedy that, you open yourself up to a opportunity to see. Look, there's an example of something far worse than any of you who are talking about blocking each other have experienced throughout this entire chat. There you go. So grow up. And then on top of that, and also recognize how easy your life is if this is a problem that bothers you. Like that's all I'm saying. But so when it comes to identifying what is triggering you in the like spotlight area, identify that. Dive into that. Think about where it originated from. Take the time to meditate and see what aspect of your body is triggered. We're going to get more into that in the chakras section, which is coming up next. So, in regards to that aspect and that experience, you need to understand that the wound is guiding you to exactly what you need to be healed to open yourself up and really expand and shine to the degree that you need. So, it's a pretty huge opportunity. I look at it as good overall, but it is annoying at the end of the day because it's Chiron. It's Chiron being like, hey, man, this is a problem. I'm going to wound you even more so you know. You know? So that's kind of what it is in terms of opening themselves up and really operating at the level that you need, right? So when it comes to that, it's an opportunity to really just expand or believe, experience, and open yourselves up. Um, Yo, this is stop saying those words. Um, so yeah. Mm, yeah. All right, Beans. If they keep saying weird words with that, do away with it. Yeah. So the next alignment that we're talking about is an opportunity to um this is kind of like where people are talking about in regards to I don't care. Like I'm trying to talk about astrology and I am not your parent. Like deal with it, you know? Um So, in regards to Venus sextiling Mercury, which is essentially what's going on, it's like sextiling slash squaring. Um, like, it's the most parenting thing you could say. So in regards to this is the whole like classic Mercury retrograde. Oh my God, y'all are your lives are so easy if this is a problem for you. Um, so in regards to Venus sextiling Mercury, this is like the classic Mercury retrograde thing of essentially like your ex is probably coming back and you are probably going back into a space of like you're going back into a space of why is this person here? Why do I have this connection? And very likely they are probably the person that you're supposed to dive into and realize how them holding you back is wounding you and it's not good, blah 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 blah. And it's gonna bring people back to a lot of like heart-centered communication, romantic clarifications, of course. Things left unsaid are now surfacing, and a potential to, recorrect for that past lover, like I was saying, that is holding you back in this space, right? So when it comes to Venus anchoring Mercury, it's something that can bring softness to the mental static that like has been experienced, because it's just like, you know, that feeling of when you have a connection with someone and there is unfinished business and you can't stop thinking about each other, mainly because of mainly because it's like either that person is thinking about you, or it's like you're stuck thinking about them, or you're stuck thinking about like something was unfair. And the answer to that is life isn't fair, you know? And if life's not fair, then life is essentially not unfair as well, which is something that was a bit profound and has been on my mind recently. So, in regards to that, the Venus sextile and eventually square is going to bring up opportunity for those old connections to resurface, but then it will either evolve or devolve, depending on how you look at it, to a lesson, right? And it's going to essentially make that lesson and be a opportunity to really like guide people through that. You know, I mean, you know how relationships go. Like, eventually, you're always attracting someone that kind of triggers your childhood trauma in that weird way. And if it's unhealed, you're going to keep attracting that and keep attracting that until you heal it, right? So essentially, what's going on in regards to that energy is, you know, people are gonna be wilding. You know, people are gonna be facing that thing. People are gonna be seeing those experiences of like, hey, like this is what I got going on. This is what I'm experiencing, and is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Kind of trying to move away from the framework of good and bad, right? So when we talk about that, some of the other notable aspects is the moon is essentially going to be transiting from, let's see. All right, so it goes into retrograde when moon is in Aries, and then it is essentially retrograde for about a month. So yeah, we're gonna experience a full lunar cycle through Mercury retrograde, and then we are. It's okay, Beans. I'll be fine. Um, and then we are, whatchamacallit, we're also going to be moving towards a lot of weirdness with the fixed signs. So if you have any fixed signs in your big three, you're going to be feeling it, to say the least. And then also keep in mind that Mercury shadow lasts until late August, when it basically recatches that 15-degree experience, right? So when we talk about when we talk about whatchamacallit, when we talk about that and the integration of Mercury, what is it? Mercury exiting shadow. It's kind of going to be a weird, like, full circle type of thing of like you healed some type of oh, right, sorry. Fixed signs are Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius. Like I said, if you guys want to learn astrology, check out my school. Got a lot going on in there. And if you actually want to, you know, not be some fart in the wind, like listening to YouTube astrology and just being like, ooh, you know, like, my school will get you there. You'll actually learn how to do things. We got a lot of people posting manifestation um, receipts. Beans literally just posted one. Or I should say the Healing Rebels Club literally just posted one about, you know, doing a little ritual we put in the group. Actually manifesting some money and getting things cleared out, you know? That's what's going on. Yo, why are you talking Libra Taurus compatibility? Yeah, I mean, it's both Venusian, they'll do okay, but it's like, you know, Libra's gonna be trying to heal something that Libra. No, Leo is not cardinal. Leo is fixed fire. Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Let's get into the chakra healing. Love the chakra healing part. It's like literally what I do. Hype. All right, I'll do 39, 30. Okay, so the main chakras that are going to be influenced in regards to the whatchamacallit. Yo, you're wildin'. So the chakras that we're going to be dealing with are obviously with Leo, it's the solar plexus. And then we're going to be dealing with a little bit of the heart. And then obviously the throat chakra, right? So it's basically the chakras we're dealing with are from here to essentially like here, right? So it's like the majority of your torso and a bit of your neck. So in regards to that, the questions that you want to ask are, where is your expression tied to approval? When did you last perform instead of embody? And then what does shine feel like in your body, not feed? So when we talk about these chakras and healing them, it's very specific and unique to you. Because the way I look at the chakras is they're a reflection of your natal chart in the body, right? So, for example, this person is a Scorpio ascendant. The throat chakra for them is likely to be in Capricorn. The heart chakra is likely to be, depending on degree, split between Aquarius, Pisces. And then the solar plexus is Pisces, Aries, right? So when we talk about the throat chakra from this person, they are very matter of fact. They're very Saturnian. They're very business oriented, right? So when it comes to speaking your truth without flinching, they likely already do that. They likely are very susceptible to lying and just being like, all right, if this person's super emotional, I am not going to interact with them on a regular basis. Yeah, I'm doing Aries will be the first one when I do the all signs reading. So when it comes to the chakras, it is a space of where it's like that person specifically. And once again, look at your own chart or get your solar map. It is going to be an opportunity for you to like understand how you kind of adapted your speaking rules to other people because they're so emotional and you just don't want to deal with it. Like that's really why, like that is essentially what's going on. That's how people are dealing with these things, and that's how they just don't care, and they just kind of like be like, all right, if this person's I want them in my life but they're annoying and they're super emotional, I'm just going to adapt around that and probably lie to them and not tell the truth, right? So even that, like thinking of ways to protect other people and almost flinching when you want to speak your truth is something that those people are going to have to deal with in regards to the throat chakra. Now when we talk about the heart, that's where it gets funny with this example. I'm gonna have to make more tea too, so yeah. So when we talk about the heart chakra, these people have their heart chakra split between Aquarius as well as Pisces sometimes. So a lot of like what they feel and what they do is very random. It's very emotional and unemotional at the same time, and it's kind of based on the perspective of what society wants them to do in regards to their heart, right? So like when it comes to this Mercury and Leo energy, it's very obvious that we are in a space of like, hey man, I'm just kind of doing what society wants me to do. And that's not necessarily what people should be experiencing in regards to their heart chakra, right? So it comes back to the question or an energetic prompt of when did you last perform instead of embody? Like, why are you doing this for other people? Why are you doing this for it's like, man, it's like, why are you like doing this for other people? Why are you living for other people? And why are you like letting your entire concept of love, which is something that I don't know, I've come into a different perspective of it, where it's like everybody has a different definition, and more often than not, people use it as an excuse to sacrifice their own boundaries for someone else, right? Which is kind of what I'm describing in regards to like having Aquarius and Pisces in your heart chakra, right? So it's sort of dealing with a very cold yet empathetic energy of, performing for other people and not necessarily embodying what you feel. Appreciate you, Pierre. So when it comes to what the hell was I saying? Yeah. So when it comes to integration rituals, Oh yeah, there's solar plexus stuff too, but I mean that's very simple. It's just follow your own excitement and don't let anybody knock you off of it. So for example, it's like me doing this right here and getting back on topic despite some people in the past saying wild things in the comments and being like, "Oh man, that's crazy." You know? Oh yeah, man, this green tea slaps. But what was I saying? But yeah, in regards to integration rituals, you can do a guided visualization of essentially you just taking your mask off. Another thing you can do is you can do a mirror work prompt, like literally in front of a camera or a mirror, so you can see yourself, and literally say one truth you've never said out loud. And then in terms of journaling, what you can do is you can write down the prompt of what does the real me want to say. And yeah, I know these are really simple, but if we think of the old KISS acronym, it's keep it simple, stupid. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't do these things. Like, for example, I'm doing this live reading on an iPhone, and the reason why I don't have an Android is because I'm not a tech bro. Well, I can't necessarily say that. Sometimes I'm a fake CEO for a lot of tech companies that don't want to be in the limelight. That's another story. Another thing is yeah, Beans, I mean, you're great. You're very like, I mean, you know what your problems are. You'll fix them, no problem. But essentially like what it is like the iPhone is very simple. All the apps are simple, blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, if I forget who that person one that would like didn't believe like I could make money off of astrology. But yeah, that was one of the other things that I do. Fake tech CEO, bro. Catch me in San Fran. Not even joking. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have this is such a small aspect of my life. It's like not even funny. Man's be wilding out here. Beans knows. Beans knows some of the things that I be doing. I be getting up to situations. I feel like I've lived multiple lives in one at this point, but then again, in a lot of my past life readings, they've literally said that this is a combination of my 3 arcs. So yeah. Oh, thank you. Whatchamacallit? But yeah, I'm getting into the all signs reading. So yeah, we're starting off with Aries. Okay, so how this is going to go is I'm going to talk about Mercury retrograde in your specific house for rising signs. You can kind of attribute it to sun and moon. But what you can also do is like kind of listen to these readings for your sun, moon, and ascendant, mostly your ascendant. Yeah, and then I'm also going to integrate a little bit if I can be facts for Pierre, man, spitting facts. And then I'm also going to try to integrate some of the other alignments I talked about, which is Venus sextile Mercury retrograde, along with Sun square Chiron, and trying to add that into the low reading a little bit. But there might be a little bit of mental gymnastics, so I might not do it for all. We'll see. Okay, so for Aries risings, it deals with creative rewrites, romance echoes, and old artistic identities return. I think the person who was Aries in here said they weren't even 20 yet, so old identities returning from this lifetime is probably unlikely. But yeah, I forgot to write the timestamp for that. I'll check back later. Let's say that. But yeah, so it's like, your ex is probably gonna return. I think it was for Aries risings as well as Aquarius ascendants that the ex returning for an extended period of time and it actually being like not a final breakup is pretty strong. And essentially what's going on with that is it's an opportunity for you to kind of deal with that, rewrite that. If you're a little bit younger, get that middle school relationship nonsense out the way while you're young, so you can have a better understanding of what you want out of a relationship and like how you actually really want to like define your boundaries and so on and so forth. But honestly, yeah, just like focusing on your creative endeavors, realigning with what's exciting to you, and opening yourself up to those creative rewrites is a pretty huge opportunity for what you can make happen, right? So when we think about Aries rising in that way, it's like their excitement is their focus, their leadership is their focus. And one of the things that I will bring up from the what is it, like the Sun Chiron square, is, you know, Chiron is essentially on your ascendant right now, so you may be feeling like you're making a lot of mistakes. And the Sun in Cancer is aligned with your fourth house, right? So it kind of triggers that classic Aries ascendant energy of feeling like they need to be a leader and be a pioneer, and sacrificing a lot of like what they want and what they want to experience to, oh yes, it's even more important. And essentially like the classic Aries rising energy of, this is who I am, but I like the energy of leadership and pioneering and people needing me much more than I actually like the experience of doing what I want to do or what I want to experience, right? And you kind of take a step back from experiencing what's necessary and abundant for your soul and following that true alignment, rather than just, you know, farting around being a leader for something that you don't actually care about, but you're blinded to that because you like leadership and pioneering and being seen as someone that people can rely on more than what you actually enjoy yourself. That's a big thing for Aries ascendants. I've been saying that for years. Now moving on to Taurus. Okay, so Taurus risings are dealing with Mercury retrograde in their fourth house. That essentially is, and once again, for anyone that's like, oh, it's not exactly my fourth house. Remember that a lot of people use the Placidus house system, which generates elastic houses based off of where you are on the equator. So there could be interceptions and overlapping nonsense, you know? So, but generally, it is fourth house Leo for Taurus risings. So what we're dealing with here is family miscommunications, ego in the roots, and old home wounds, right? So it's a common concept of what I was talking about in regards to just general Mercury retrograde due to the degrees, right? So Tauruses specifically are going to be dealing with that energy of what's going on with their family. They're dealing with that energy of what's going on with their experience. They're dealing with that energy of, you know, miscommunications, ego deaths, understanding how their family attempted to program them and may still be attempting to program them under the guise of what is acceptable in society. And they may not exactly be here for it. They may not want it. They may not want to experience that. They may not want to continue along those lines, right? They may have been upholding some type of passivity, whether that be not doing what their family says or doing what their family says. Like, it's really up to them, you know? So it's an opportunity for Tauruses to recognize that they may have not best explained why they don't want to do XYZ to their family. They may have not best explained why they don't listen and why they just ignore them. And they may be in a space of saying that they don't agree on a feeling level and they haven't necessarily articulated why that is, which is why they don't communicate with those family members, right? So it's a unique thing to dibble and dabble in regards to what it means to be a Taurus, right? And if we think about that energy of where the square is, where the sextile is, they're dealing with a lot of subconscious relationship energy that is, you know, not exactly what they want to be dealing with. They're dealing with a lot of like subconscious wounds, a lot of subconscious wounds of self-expression that they can't articulate. So requesting that they open themselves up to a certain experience or they sacrifice their own boundaries for who you want them to be is not something that they're going to budge on. And it's difficult for them because you have to remember that the ascendant is your aura. It's what you feel like you have to do. It's what you project. It's the thought field of like, I should be this. So when you say that word I and you add in the whole should be and you add in all that, it's an opportunity for you to essentially, you know, that's the thought, like you're literally magnetizing that thought to your energetic space. So it's something that is difficult for them in a way, and it's an opportunity. You want me to tell you about yourself? I can tell you that you aren't very clear on what you want. You don't know that much about astrology, but you're excited to learn. And you know, you enjoy this live to some degree and you're curious. So yeah, so in regards to Taurus ascendants and the rising sign, yeah, it's gonna be, who the fuck is that? Sorry. That's the building manager or something. So it's a opportunity for you to really open yourselves up and essentially just recognize that like it's hard for Tauruses to express these things, but it is not necessarily something that they don't feel. It's something that they don't understand, which is why they're having those miscommunications to begin with. Now, moving on to Gemini risings. Oh, anybody have any questions? Feel free to like the live, let me know. I might have to make some, actually gonna make some more tea real quick. So yeah, Gemini risings, they're dealing with the Leo energy in their third house, so they're kind of not necessarily understanding what they got going on, and they are in a space where it's just like, I like to say things this way, but people ain't accepting it. People ain't experiencing it. People aren't just like, people ain't vibing with it, you know? So it's kind of a rough one for them because, I need some honey, damn. It's kind of a rough one for them because they don't necessarily like, they don't know why they can't say what they want to say, right? So Geminis are going to be having a tough time just like communicating in general. They're going to be having a tough time dealing with some sibling tension. They're going to be having a tough time like just saying what they want to say with so much clarity that they can't exactly like, they just, for a first time, Geminis are going to have a tough time communicating. And it's not necessarily because, okay. They're just having a tough time like dealing with these things, right? And it's going to come up from childhood where it's like they're kind of rewiring themselves mentally. They're dealing with some sibling tension, and they're, for once, they're not assuming correctly, because this time they're going to be obsessed with the ideology of how do I say this? They're going to be obsessed with the ideology that they're typically correct. However, they don't feel that they're correct, and they don't feel that they're right. So the fact that they're going to be wrong in assuming something, or wrong in guessing what somebody thinks, or not being able to complete their sentence and understand their mentality, is going to stress them out. It's going to add on to the stress of what they're dealing with in regards to their, just like their general mentality, and like a lot of things from childhood in regards to where it's just like, no, you're not right. No, you're not experiencing this. No, you're incorrect. And so on and so forth. My tea. Here we go. I need some salt too. Hold up. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I've been on for an hour. I need more tea. Okay. Now we are set. So yeah, the Geminis, they're going to be experiencing some sibling tension. They're going to be experiencing some mental rewiring. And it's going to come from them kind of like having a glitch in their guesstimation of who people are and what they can do. And it's going to trigger them. It's going to bring them back to, like I said, sibling rivalries. It's going to bring them back to a space of not always being right about people and not being able to essentially bullshit your way out of it. So it's going to be interesting, you know? Now, moving on to Cancer. Oh god, gotta keep the voice going. So, what Cancers are dealing with, they are dealing with a lot of money and self-worth misalignment. They're reviewing their value and they're recognizing that they can be enough. So, when we talk about Cancers and their second house, they're open, they're ready to shift, and they're ready to stop sacrificing themselves for, fear-based reasons. They're ready to, move on from misalignment. They're ready to stop, doing things based off a lack of self-worth. They're recognizing that they can't always do this. They're recognizing that they are enough. They're recognizing that their boundaries and what they think they are capable of is beyond just some old, outdated fear that's holding them back. They don't recognize that they are enough. They don't recognize that they're capable. They don't recognize that, bro. Cancers are the masters of boundary setting, and the fact that they sacrifice their values is going to be something that's quite difficult for them. So it's a unique opportunity. It's a unique experience, and Cancers are going to be much more, I would say, emotionally respectful of other people around them, right? Because how you treat others is a reflection of your own boundaries, and they're going to be much more open to different aspects, different experiences, different opportunities that are more aligned with their self-worth. And when they actually set those boundaries, they will make more money. They will be more experienced. They will be more open, and they will be more powerful at anything. So Cancer is pretty simple. It's just a self-worth boundary type dealie, and they just got to recognize that they're enough, and that'll show in massive ways in terms of how they're spending their emotions and opening themselves up to their mentality of what could be. So moving on to Leo, the self-entitled one of this alignment. So Leos, they are redefining their whole self-image. They're going to be dramatic. They're going to be very raw in their healing experience. And they're going to be doing an identity audit, right? So when we talk about the identity audit, Leos are going to be, how do I say this, man? How do I say this? Yeah, they're going to be, hey, man. They're going to be questioning their philosophy about how they present themselves. They're going to be, whatchamacallit, they're going to be, oh, man. They're going to be questioning their philosophies about how they identify. They're going to be questioning their ability to present themselves properly. They are going to be, oh my god. They're just going to be wilding overall, dude. They're going to be, hey man, they're going to be questioning their subconscious. They're going to be questioning their identity. They're going to be questioning where they got their philosophies from. They're going to be questioning a whole lot. And they're not necessarily going to come to an answer right away, but they will be doing that reverse psychology of social engineering in terms of who they are and what they want to be from an ideological perspective, right? So it's just I base my understanding of my identity off this philosophy. I base my understanding of my identity off of this experience. I base my understanding of my identity off of this entire philosophy that isn't even you. It isn't even what you want. It isn't even how you're experiencing. It isn't even experiencing you may come back to the same things, but it's sort of you're understanding your relationship with your own mind and your own philosophy and what you want out of life, right? So it's odd. It's a weird opportunity. And it's it's gonna be raw, right? Like I would definitely see Leos arguing with their philosophical teachers. I definitely see Leos um whatchamacallit. I definitely see Leos like Beans is cool. Beans just has an Uber driver bullshitting. And bro, just watch it back on a slower pace speed. I'm not going to stop how I speak for you. Whatchamacallit. So yeah, it's like Leos are just in this weird space of where they're just, it's like they're just they're having trouble dealing with their entire like understanding and approach to mental travel, studies, and just higher learning. And they're going to try to attribute that to some physical ego, some archetype, or some manifestation of a person, when in reality, they're just mad at themselves for attaching to a certain ideology or area of study, right? Like that's what they're really mad at. But be that what it will. It'll probably vary to different degrees. It'll probably vary to different levels of, I don't know, different levels of intensity. Because it's just like, if you're healed, it's whatever. If you're unhealed and then it hits something, it's going to be rough. But, you're going to be showing it through just life regardless, but you kind of already have been doing that, so it's whatever. Now, Virgo risings. Oh my god, this pen. Hey, shouts out to that. Okay. So, Virgo risings, the highlights are spiritual noise, inner critic review, and unprocessed wounds return, right? So, this comes from Virgos subconsciously lacking in terms of peace beans. Virgos lacking and dealing with their subconscious need to obsess and focus on a specific problem outside of themselves. So when it comes to Virgo rising, they're dealing with that subconscious need to focus on things that aren't truly aligned with themselves, their understanding, and their ability to, you know, their like egoic ability to feel like they're going to fix everything and they're capable of fixing everything, and they are not recognizing that ideology and belief, because it is a belief in themselves no matter what they tell themselves or other people, because they don't necessarily recognize that their ability to constantly adapt, heal, and I guess you could say maintain is at the cost of themselves. And it's an ego thing, right? So it's weird how the ego damages yet builds up to damage. And that's something that Virgos have to deal with, because they think they can fix everything and they don't necessarily pay attention to what they store within their own nervous system and the damage that it costs them, right? So this is a very boundary setting space for Virgo, not necessarily for other people, but what they're willing to sacrifice in themselves in order to grow, right? So it's almost like they want to spread their roots and have the sprout head downwards away from the sun. And they continuously tell themselves that spreading these roots and making this possibility an option for them is healthy, when in reality it's almost building yourself up for nothing, because you're never going to see the light of day, which is something that is interesting when they have Leo in the 12th house, because the subconscious is such a powerful thing that is oh, hello from Ireland, is an opportunity that they kind of ignore and sacrifice, right? So it's a lot of like needless self-sacrifice that Virgos are dealing with, which is why their unprocessed wounds are returning. If you think about the example that I used, because it's like they're spreading their roots to grow a plant inversely, right? And that just isn't how things work. which is like something that Virgos are gonna have to deal with, and they will, but at what cost? That's the real question, you know? Now we move on to Libra. I can't stop doing this. Libra. Libra is dealing with the 11th house, so it's group dynamics, social media recalibration, and the question of posting or pretending. So, when we talk about Libra ascendants, Libras are always chasing balance. They're always chasing that experience. They're always chasing the opportunity to assert themselves a similar way that Virgo does, because Virgo is in their subconscious. So it's like they're always willing to take on these dynamics that they really just shouldn't. And essentially, what it does is it's just like they got to either just delete social media for the entire summer, or just start posting and ghosting and not checking on stats, not checking on the reciprocation, not doing these things for the pure need of shine from other people, right? And being that person that is like, I see your perspective, I see your perspective, but I also see the third perspective, which is essentially like, it's essentially, you know, it's like very balancing, it's very useful, it's very helpful to learn how to moderate the subconscious vibes of what's going on. But just because you have the power of the opposing perspective of how society and the universe naturally operates in this world doesn't mean that you have to fix everything. It's just showing you that you can, and it's showing you that there's a way. But do you need to bear that responsibility? No, you don't. And that's something that Libras need to do. And it's often why I mention social media specifically, is because that's how it's shown. That's how it manifests. That's how it opens in regards to their subconscious need, similar to Aries, but not quite, so it's sort of in the opposite way. But their subconscious need to there's a conscious need to open themselves up to the possibility of maybe they are doing this for the shine that they didn't get and the shine that they want and the ability and the feeling to be needed, right? This is what Libras are going after. This is what Libras are approaching, and this is what Libras are experiencing. So when we think about that and we open ourselves up to that possibility, it's not necessarily good. And it's kind of like, you know, it's essentially they're just helping the world with strings attached, which isn't karma. That isn't like clearing karma. That isn't good karma. That's just you doing favors with an expectation, which is transactional, right? And it's almost like it's like basically not it's just, you know, it's you're just using people and putting a mask on it, and they don't think it is, because you're not necessarily using people in the way that is direct, but you're like using people with the guise of the universe, and the universe hates that, right? Because karmically you're following your own dogma essentially, and you're just using universal mechanisms that are supposed to be helping you. And when you take credit for that and you take the energetic sovereignty and authority over that, you essentially chase your tail, or you shoot yourself in the foot, because you aren't allowing the mechanism that you want to use to work. You're taking control over it, right? So it's just like saying, let me drive the boat. And it's just like, bro, the ocean's going to take you where it's going to take you. You don't have control over that. You can't create an illusion over that. Let it go, you know? So that's kind of what's going on with Libra, right? Where it's interesting, it's useful, but due to them having Virgo in the 12th house, they have that subconscious mechanism of they can take control. They can experience these things. They can make these things happen. And the answer is, you can't. Don't do it. Now, moving on to Scorpio. Okay. Okay, so Scorpio, 10th house, we're dealing with a realignment of reputation. We're dealing with a focus on legacy. we're dealing with the tension of how they want to be seen and the amount that they are seen, and they're kind of understanding that their true power is clarity, right? And I've talked about this extensively in regards to Scorpio, because Scorpio, the true higher octave of Scorpio is precision. And precision and power comes through clarity, knowing exactly what you want to do, exactly how it looks, and understanding that the power within that energy is it's you directing all of your emotional force towards one thing, being relentless with it, and the universe goes, "God damn, dog, here you go." For example, I'm a Scorpio ascendant. I get reminded of this every time I really have to pee and I am somewhere public and I can't just pee outside, right? So I focus so intensely on what I want that people get out of my way for traffic. Lights just magically start to turn green, and I can head towards somewhere like a bathroom or something, so I can't so I don't pee myself in public or whatever, right? And I always get reminded through that experience. And it's funny because when Scorpio is the fixed water sign, right? And ironically, I'm fixated on water or releasing emotion in some type of way, shape, or form. And I always find it funny when people are extra emotional about that stuff, because it's like they're acting out that Scorpio energy. They're acting out that fixed water energy of where it's like they're fixated on water in some way, shape, or form, whether it be their emotion, them actually having to pee, and so on and so forth, right? Like it's literally an actual, it's the most physical manifestation of the Scorpio energy you can possibly imagine, right? I always find that funny, and it's always a reminder of the power, right? So when it comes to Scorpio risings, and them essentially re imagining what their legacy is going to be and how they want to present themselves, it's interesting, right? And what's also funny is through the visibility tension, they may have some weird feeling about how people feel about them and what they're putting out to the world, right? So it's a unique experience. They might move to a space where I don't know why my knuckles are itchy. They might move to a space where they're better seen. They might move social media platforms. They might move to a different job. They might reconsider how they want to present themselves. They might reconsider who they associate with in regards to what they want, because they may have certain partnerships that are not exactly excited about what they're doing. They may have, they may have a conflict with a job. They may have a conflict with a boss. They may have a conflict with someone. And, what Scorpios often do in regards to the 48 laws of power is they don't, it's ironic that they do this too, because you would think Leos or Aries do this, but they kind of oh yeah, I'm happy to do it. If you really want to learn astrology and go deep and basically get unlimited free readings, you check out my school. It's linked in the description and on my page. It's called the Alchemist Laboratory. I'm going to talk about it at the end. But it's my own astrology school where I have a bunch of courses, group calls, and one-on-one readings with people, so check it out. So yeah, but Scorpio's back to the 48 laws of power. Ironically, Scorpio. Yeah, for sure. It's way more. You'll see it after I do all these readings, but it's like its own app and everything. It's its own platform. But Scorpios, they definitely do the thing of they find every man's thumbscrew, of where it's just they find some form of social capital or social leverage that they want to use on people, but they also carry that aura of power where they're at, and that aura of power often does the thing of where it's it outshines the master, which is absolutely something you should not do. So what they're going to be learning is Scorpios, they may not necessarily learn this lesson directly, but they'll learn a reason for it, of where welcome back, Beans, of where Scorpios don't exactly they got to learn how to become invisible, right? Because that natural aura of power is something that people always feel. They whatchamacallit, Beans, if you want to send Cherry over there a link to the Alchemist Laboratory so she can check it out later. Do that, and then also obviously do your your link for obvious reasons. But yeah, So Scorpio, I don't know, they're going through a different thing. They're going through yeah, that's funny. But yeah, so Scorpios, they're dealing with a different lesson on power, right? And what they might not learn is they might not recognize the implications of the natural aura that they carry. And they're going to have to learn how to become invisible and not outshine people and really give people their props. Because, damn, that is crazy. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Scorpios are going to be going through it in terms of like the aura that they carry. And they got to understand the weight of it, the power of it, and how to direct their energy properly. And just understanding like where to put energy in different places and just think like honestly like so I have this alignment, right? I am going to be meditating and directing my energy in different places to really learn it because I haven't really been like I've been into the such logical side of spirituality for so long that I forget the power that I have, and I need to remember that all the little energetic things that I did when like almost 10 years ago when I had Jupiter transiting through my 11th and 12th house is going to come back, and I need to learn it before it comes back again because those experiences are going to get stronger. And like when you have Jupiter in your 12th house, it is such a spiritual experience where you just download so much information about spirituality. And this is specifically for me because I have Libra as well as Scorpio in my 12th house because I'm a late degree Scorpio ascendant. So it's like, it's like it's just I really shouldn't talk about it that much, but it's a powerful experience, and I highly recommend you pay attention when you have Jupiter transiting those houses because you will just spend a year almost like a monk endlessly thinking about different things, and it's like a high on its own. It's crazy, you know, like just literally just walking through life doing all these things and not recognizing that like you're not even there. Your mind is traveling in different spaces of what's possible, right? And it's like that old phrase of the unknown unknown, you know? You don't know till you know. And that's like the biggest, you know, debt energetically of ignorance debt, you know? It's a weird thing. You gotta pay attention when it happens. Now let's move on to Sag. Okay. Sagittarius, ninth house. So Sag risings, it's gonna be a breakdown of their beliefs. Old ideologies are gonna return, and they're gonna start speaking unspoken truths. So, whatchamacallit? So when it comes to sorry, I was doing mental math in my head. So when it comes to all those things, they're gonna be like, yo, you trying to trick me, dog? I ain't got no spider above my head. So yeah, essentially what's going on with that energy of the damn, I got a hair in my face. The Sag energy is like they're gonna kind of refocus a little bit. They're going to place less weight on they're going to place less weight about the philosophies they think. They're going to place less weight on communicating those philosophies, And it's either going to be a subtle step back and kind of, release, or it's going to be a opportunity for, how do I say this? It's going to be an opportunity to reset. But what? I don't exactly know, because it's very perspective based. It's going to be insightful for them. They're going to reset that energy of, I don't know, they're going to reset that energy of just belief in general, right? Which is tough for Sagittarius because it's a superpower. Being able to place meanings and reasonings on anything and everything, right? Like understanding, like, wow, the smell of grass bring back this memory. And with this memory, I learned this, right? And I remembered why I did this. And I remembered why I would travel here. And I remembered why I enjoyed oil painting in the south of France on Tuesdays in the summertime, and the smell of the sea salt in the Mediterranean air specifically. And then they're going to be like, that's the reason why I should get a root beer instead of a Coke at McDonald's, right? Like, that's what Sag is. They can extract some expansive meaning out of anything, and it doesn't really have to mean anything. It's just life, So that's pretty much what Sag is going through, and they're going to recognize that, a lot of them are going to recognize that, like, they were just being extra, and they really just like the feeling and that high of experiencing different, like, meanings and forms of expansion, rather than recognizing, like, I don't necessarily want to say it's a return to practicality, but it's kind of is, where it's just like, I want to do this, I want to experience this, I want to make this happen, I want to do this, but is it useful? No. Do they really want to do it? Also no. So it's kind of like more of that, just doing things off of impulse and feeling rather than doing it because it's useful, So it's but it isn't exactly that. It's different. It's like almost what they're kind of like basing their whole ideology off of, right? Where that's kind of like getting a turn. So it's like they're doing things because they think that's who they are and the image they built up in their head, and they're not doing them because they like them or enjoyed them, which is what created that mental image to begin with, So yeah. You were born, yeah, all right, I don't even know if you're still here, but you're, Tharati, you're freaking, your reading's coming up in like 2 readings. Capricorn. Okay. 20. Okay, so Capricorn's the 8th house. They're dealing with a shared energy of confusion. They are dealing with a lot of like sex and soul connection boundaries, and they got to understand where their power leaks, right? So if you're a Capricorn rising in some way, shape, or form, you need to, like, take a month of celibacy or something along those lines, unless you're certain about your partner, right? Because when you do that, when you be touching the classical root chakra, you taint your partner taints you, and you kind of absorb all of their traumas, and you absorb, and you also give, and with that energy exchange of like what people are feeling at that moment, what's deep seated, and so on and so forth, right? So when it comes to that, you got to be careful with who you're connecting with. You got to be careful of who you're sharing deep emotions with. You have to be careful of the secrets that you tell people about. You have to be careful about your finances, because you don't know who's out here. You don't know what's going on. And you don't know these people like that. And if people aren't aligned with the status that you self-identify with or feel like you have to achieve, it's going to be rough, dog. Like, you don't necessarily want to do that. You don't want to be sharing in the confusion of others. You don't want to be sharing in the possibility of what's holding other people back. You don't want to be in that space of just like leaking your power, And that's essentially what's going to do it, right? So you got to stay back. You got to, can you please listen? I literally told you when I'm going to be talking about you. Relax. And plus, I'm not paying attention. So yeah, when it comes to the energy that we're talking about with that, it's like Capricorn's got to recognize where their power is leaking. And that's an interesting thing, because they were dealing with Pluto on them for a long time. They were dealing with the movement of Pluto. They're dealing with the release of that. They're dealing with the space of abundance. They're dealing with the space of taking their power back and understanding that it's subconscious now, or not subconscious, but it's all around their money and their values. So when it comes to where their power leaks, they need to understand that whatever they're giving their emotion to, and whatever they're not expressing, and whatever they're not showing to the world, they may have to actually reconsider their boundaries on where they share their deep emotions. They may have to reconsider. Maybe they're sharing too much. Maybe they're sharing too little. Maybe they're not sharing with the right people. It's a complicated thing that we're dealing with. And it's understanding that giving this information to the wrong person can be damaging to you. Giving this information to the right person can be powerful for you. And it's an opportunity to understand the power behind the Capricorn energy and what you want to do with it. So think about that. Think about that quite deeply, and think about what it means to have that power. Think about what it means to open yourself up, because the Capricorn energy is powerful. It's abundant, and it is an opportunity for you to open yourself up in a way that you didn't think was possible, and realize that opening yourself up in that way will patch the leaks of you sharing something that shouldn't be shared, or sharing something that shouldn't be experienced. And recognizing the opportunity that you are a powerful person, and you need all of your energy to create what you truly want to create, because those leaks will be the roadblocks that you didn't exactly recognize, and identifying them through your relationship with deep connection and your relationship with yourself, because Capricorn's the sea goat and all those emotions right below the surface, and you don't want to share that. And not sharing that could be the leak, but also sharing with the wrong people that you feel is right could be the leak as well. And it's kind of a complicated thing that you got to identify your emotional boundaries on that you can't exactly see, So Capricorns, be careful of that. Now, moving on to Aquarius. So, Aquarius has this in the 7th house. Them, as well as Aries, are the two signs that are dealing with some type of yeah, it's a little complicated on that one. Yeah. So Aquarius risings, they are dealing with a relationship review. Past partners are definitely pulling up on them. They're one of the two signs that are having their ex return. And the main thing is they got to recognize that they aren't who they were. And, it's just general evolution. General people evolving, general people doing their thing, general people just flip-flopping, dibble-dabbling. And what, any thoughts on Scorpio? Yeah, I'm going in order. So, I've been, the timestamps written down right here. If you just want to save this live and rewatch it, I'm going to put the timestamps in after I'm done the live. And, yeah. But basically, Scorpios have to recognize that their status and their legacy are kind of up in the air right now. They got to cut some people off, add some people in. You'll see how it goes. But, Aquarius risings, yeah, you got a partner coming back, dog. It's going to be annoying. It's kind of like, what comes to mind is Aquariuses are dealing with the, how things start or how they finish. And you kind of have to recognize that your partner is like, they're stuck on how they met you, right? That's the person they fell in love with. That's the person that they were infatuated with. That's the person that they want. And they're sort of stuck on that for some type of, most likely, trauma bonding reason, that they kind of can't accept that people grow, And people grow, they evolve, they move on. And they it's like something that people have a hard time accepting, and it's really just a reflection of them not accepting a boundary that they sacrifice for themselves. And it's a healing, and it has nothing to do with you, but it does, because you got together for societal expectations reasons, blah, 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 But the whole point is that it is a karmic test of people being like, hey, man, vibes. This is you. This is who you are. And you're just like, nah, man, that ain't me. That was an aspect of who I was before. But is it me right now? Nope. I've moved on. I've grown. Why can't you accept that? For the reasons I just discussed. Boundaries, trauma bonding, they got their own shit going on, and they can't evolve in the way that they want to, you know? So, Aquarius risings, you got to deal with that relationship review. You got to deal with your past partners appearing. And you got to recognize that, like, you got to recognize that, you're not who you were when you met them. You're evolved. You're not in a state of pain. You're not in a state of youthfulness. You've grown. And it's just like, they can accept that or they can't. And the lesson is, can you accept that they can't accept that? And can you really move on? Do you feel that connection is their unfinished business? I don't know. Your life. I'm just the dude telling you the energy. How the hell am I supposed to know? Unless you get a personalized reading and pay me what I'm worth, which is another part of the energy in regards to Mercury retrograde, right? Understanding your worth for your creative energies and your focus and your value. Now, moving on to Pisces rising. Pisces rising is dealing with it in the 6th house. And we're like, the 6th house for Pisces it's a whole thing. So it's dealing with body talk, rerouting, health shifts, and understanding that your habits are speaking louder than words. So what that means is they are dealing with unexpressed emotions in their nervous systems. They're dealing with unexpressed energies, unexpressed experiences. All of that is just stuck in their body. And they have to literally shake it off, right? Shake it off. So, I will get to that question in a second. So what they're dealing with is they got to recognize they need a massage. They need cold plunges. They need water to basically release them from these experiences and these feelings. They need to understand that those vibes are not who they are and that they need to release them, right? And when you don't experience something and you don't necessarily recognize that you're dealing with feelings that need to be released or experiences that you don't want to experience, you're recognizing that you're dissociating and your body is stuck kind of like, a gear without another cog to help it spin. And until you put those two gears together and let those emotions flow, they're not going to be released, right? So that's kind of what Pisces is dealing with. But they're dealing with it from the perspective of always interacting and always integrating with the collective emotional understanding and the collective consciousness, right? Because they're naturally tapped into that. So what Pisces has to do is they have to, through this Mercury retrograde, they gotta focus on the old shit and the old things they used to harbor on and let it flow. Release things you didn't subconsciously integrate and accept. Just let it go, you know? So it's an opportunity for you to really understand and recognize that, yeah, you gotta let it go, man. Pisces, you take on so much. You need to have some type of routine that helps you release the empathic energies that you absorb from everybody else in the world. You need to let it go. You need to have a ritual that does it, whether it's waterfall magic, whether it's putting your feet in a stream, because, Pisces or the 12th house is correlated to your feet, aka, your feetsies are your two fish. You know, Shouts out to Feet Finder, pay me. But essentially what that energy of the um, energy of that is you need to put your 12th house and your subconscious in a river, a creek, or some type of emotional flow and recognize that you need to do some type of ritual to basically let all of those emotions be taken away from you and given back to the earth. Like literally stomp, scream, give those energies back to the earth and let it go, And that's the energy of what Pisces needs to do, where they need to basically adapt and get some type of ritual along those lines in regards to what is it in regards to what's the word just releasing those subconscious emotions that they took on, right? But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the vibe for that. Now we're gonna review how this retrograde works, and I'm gonna answer that question, but first I gotta make some more tea and pee. So y'all do your thing for like a minute, I'll be back. am returning. Is everybody even here? Oh, yeah. Alrighty. I gotta, Alright, let me answer that question. What was the question? Oh, I don't know if you're still here, but the difference between, so the difference between Scorpio, or let me, I just, we'll figure that out. Okay, so the difference between November and October Scorpios is degrees, right? So there's 30 degrees, and it's kind of split between, sort of split between, like, what is it? I actually got peppermint tea, but thanks for remembering. It's split between, what the hell is it? Yeah, I mean, it's essentially like that distinction is meaningless. There's like the decans, there's degrees, there's different like stars and constellations behind those energies, and that's really what it is. You know, like it's different. It's just that pretty much. So yeah, that's the difference. Like it's degrees, constellational influences, different stars, and just the understanding of that energy. You know. But anyways, a little recap on how this retrograde is supposed to work. So like, don't sign any deals, unless necessary. Like, don't do any like just basic stuff. Like, don't sign any contracts. Don't do that. Obviously, like, Mercury retrograde stuff. Like, back up your devices, double check your emails. You know, don't react out of emotion too much. Speak slower. Take more time to feel. Use writing for clarity, and then kind of like let Mercury's delay be your alignment checkpoint, you know? Like, whatchamacallit? It's sort of like, yo, Beans, remember what I told you? Remember what I told you? Cultural phenomenons are funny. Yeah, so essentially, like, like really what it's about is you going back to your childhood and recognizing that like the programming that you just kind of like, you know, it's your responsibility to change, disagree, and stuck with, but like the program you were born with or your parents like put on you wasn't bad, wasn't good, it wasn't anything. It was just like something that they did to get you started, and you can now Mercury retrograde is reminding you that you have an opportunity to change it in order to isolate and identify how you feel, what you want, and how you want to expand and experience your own creativity. And you also want to place boundaries around that in order to receive what it is that you feel as though you deserve, right? Because if you deserved it, you would have it, you know, like it's as simple as that, you know? And it's essentially an opportunity for you to recognize that, hey, dog, like, your programming doesn't have to be forever. We're giving you an opportunity to change it right now. Let it go. You know? That's just really what it is, essentially. So it's not really like it is deep. It's not very deep for many of the signs, but it is like, I don't know, like I shouldn't say it's not deep just because this is like a mental space that I travel in very frequently. But you know, it's pretty huge opportunity for you to recognize that your creative gifts can be, you know, understood, appreciated, valued, and an opportunity for you to grow and expand and really open yourself up to like what is going on, right? An opportunity for you to open yourself up to just all of these different energies of you just being a powerful person, of you just being like vibes, dog, like you just being yourself, having a boundaries around that and accepting that you can be treated as someone who's creative and powerful for that, right? Like this is a perfect example. Astrology is my career. It's more common in India, but here it's kind of, you know, it's sort of special, but not really anymore. And you know, you can do it, you know, it's not that crazy. Just do whatever. Now, yeah, I mean, pretty much after this, I'm just hanging out, saying what up to you guys. So if you got any questions or personal readings or things you want to talk about, let me know. I'm going to drink tea and hang out for a little bit. Oh, yeah. This tea slaps. I'm drinking peppermint tea. That's what I needed. So, one of the, oh, Cherry, if anyone's talking crazy to me in Hindi, you can calm that down, because we had a problem with that on some of the last lives. Beans was using Google Translate for your boy. Whatchamacallit. But yeah, what was I gonna say? So two of the things. It's okay, Beans. I appreciate your time. Yeah. So yeah. So some of the special things that I do in astrology that like people who are more under the Vedic understanding can appreciate is that like Vedic uses the underlying calculation of the sidereal chart, which is also, sidereal charts also do that. But it is the specific focus and isolation on the zodiac constellations rather than the house systems like in Western. And what I do different in regards to that is I focus on the constellations, which often overlap with the traditional breakdown of the nakshatras and the lunar mansions. And like it basically gets you the same answer every time I've done a reading with a Vedic astrologer. Is um and like I just like to go to the constellations specifically because I feel as though the nakshatras are it's like it's similar to the Greek gods of where it's like stories for you to help better understand the energies of what already exists. However, the nakshatras are the lunar mansions, and they are basically breaking down the moon's perspective on the constellations, right? So I just go to the constellations directly. And what I have going on in regards to that is an opportunity to, um, yeah, I did readings for everyone. So it's an opportunity for everyone to understand and focus on a like whatchamacallit. It's an opportunity for everyone to understand and focus on the difference between okay, cool. So it's an opportunity for everyone to identify and focus on different perspectives of what could be and breaking down the energies of like this is what this constellation does. This is what that constellation does. Um Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of that. I was just explaining the difference and all that stuff, right? So essentially, what's going on with that is I look at it as an opportunity for you to understand and figure out like your perspective, your past life, and then as well as your mentality in this lifetime, right? So essentially, it's an opportunity for you to open up and recognize like how like so this is where I also associate the lunar connection of where it's like you connect this constellation and star to your moon sign, and that's basically telling you about your past life, how you got here, and all that stuff, right? And it basically shows you your mentality, your perspective, and how you were guided towards here, right? So that's pretty much how I look at the understanding of the constellations and all that stuff. And you need to go to a birth chart calculator and plug in all that information. But yeah, so that's pretty much the vibes on how I utilize the fixed stars and constellations, and I teach all of that in my school, which is pretty cool. But anyways, I've been on here for a while. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Have a good one.